In this video, I'm going to look at Pergear 60mm f2.8 Mark II Macro 2x lens. It seems to have become a trend among Chinese lens manufacturers to produce full-frame macro lenses with 2x magnification. Here we have one of the most affordable options, the Pergear 60mm f2.8 Mark II Macro 2x. Let's dive into its strengths and weaknesses. I tested this lens on a 46 megapixel Nikon Z7 II. Sample images were taken with Nikon ZF and Nikon ZF-C. You can see this review as a text-based blog post on our blog site. I put a link to the blog post in the description below. Most of the sample images in this review and many more can be found in higher resolution on a separate site. I put the link to that site in the description below. Pergear kindly provided this lens for test and review purposes. There has been an original 60mm f2.8 macro lens from 2021 that was for APS-C cameras. The one I'm testing is Mark II, which should cover a full-frame sensor. Handling and build quality. Pergear 60mm 2.8 Mark II is a fully manual lens. No autofocus, no aperture control from the camera, and no electronic pins for data transmission to the camera. It is built fully in metal and glass and looks a little bit large and heavy for being a 60mm lens, but it also gives a solid impression. There is no image stabilization built into this lens, and it does not come with a lens hood. It features a very wide and generously sized focusing ring and an aperture ring. Both rings turn very smoothly and feel nice. The focusing ring has, besides meter and feet markings, also magnification ratio markings from 1:2 to 2:1. It has internal focusing, so the lens length does not change when you focus close or far. The focusing is not very easy as the focusing ring is not very well damped. You can get past the focus point easily, but with some exercise you get the grip of its operation. I normally pre-focus the lens at a certain magnification and try to move the camera back and forth to get the subject in focus, so that is not a big deal for me when doing macro work, but when I do non-macro work it's a little annoying. The aperture ring features variable distance markings for each full stop from f2.8 to f16. However, it lacks click stops and is entirely clickless, which I'm not a fan of for still photography. On occasion, I accidentally shifted the aperture without realizing it, resulting in some photos being taken at unintended settings. Although marketed as a full-frame lens, it only works effectively for macro photography. At portrait distance and beyond, vignetting on a full-frame camera becomes so severe that the lens is practically unusable. However, on an APS-C camera, it performs well at all distances, including infinity, for both macro and non-macro shots. For some reason, the lens came with a focusing tab, and oddly enough, it's branded as 7 Artisans. The tab can be attached to the lens barrel using the pre-applied adhesive. Optical features. For sharpness near infinity mark, we look at 3 areas of the image: center, mid-frame and the corner. The infinity sharpness was tested in DX mode, that is 21.5 megapixel APS-C area. Sharpness is very good at 2.8 in the center, good in the mid-frame, but soft in the corner. Stopping down to f4 and you get excellent sharpness in the center. The mid-frame is much better, but the corners is still soft. At f5.6 the mid-frame sharpness is very good now, but corner, while better, is still soft. You have to stop down to f11 for the corner to become good. The center and mid-frame sharpness remain excellent and very good to f11. At f16 sharpness becomes weaker due to the diffraction, which weakens the sharpness even more at f22. Sharpness at portrait distance. Let's look at the points of interest for portraits at the portrait distance: the center, the center's inner periphery, and the center's outer periphery. As at longer distances the FX format is not usable, I tested the portrait distance sharpness for APS-C format only. The center sharpness is very good, inner circle is good, and outer circle is a little bit soft. Sharpness at close-up distance. This is where the sharpness of this lens really matters. At 1:1 magnification, sharpness is very good at f2.8, though it softens slightly at f4 while remaining good. At f5.6, sharpness remains good, but contrast takes a noticeable hit. At f8, the image softens even more, though it's still acceptably good, and at f11 it's softer, with reduced contrast but still good. At f16 it is okay, and at f22 it's on the edge of being barely acceptable. At 2x magnification, sharpness at 2.8 is actually better than at 1:1 magnification. Stopping down improves sharpness, peaking at an excellent level at f5.6. Diffraction begins to affect the sharpness at f8, though it remains very good, and it's still good at f11. f16 completely usable, and f22 it's a little bit soft. Lens distortion. The lens shows pincushion distortion at normal distances, here on an APS-C sensor. As this is a macro lens, I tested the distortion at macro distance too. The distortion at about 1:1 magnification is more than at long distances on an APS-C sensor, more or less the double. Vignetting. On full-frame cameras, the vignetting is about 4.1 EV at f2.8 at infinity, and it only gets worse when you stop down. It is so serious that I do not enter all the values, but the vignetting is pretty decent when used on APS-C cameras at infinity. The chromatic aberrations are very well corrected in this lens, as there is no longitudinal chromatic aberration or lateral chromatic aberration visible with this lens. This is quite impressive. Flare resistance. Flare resistance is quite poor, so it's best to avoid having the sun in the frame or near the edges, as well as in backlit scenes. This Pergear, as all macro lenses, suffers from heavy focus breathing. The bokeh. At close distances, magnification 1:2 to 2:1, the bokeh is super soft and almost nothing is recognizable in the background. And now to the conclusion and sample images. The good things are the price, the sharpness, and the chromatic aberration. Things that are not bad but not very good either, the build quality and handling. And things with room for improvements are the flare resistance and focus breathing. This is a highly affordable macro lens, offering excellent value for money. It's one of the most budget-friendly options that can achieve 2:1 magnification on a full-frame camera. When used on an APS-C camera, the crop factor enlarges the effective field of view by 1.5 to 1.6 times compared to a full-frame sensor. Sharpness is impressive, rivaling more expensive competitors, with excellent chromatic aberration control. However, unlike some competing lenses, this one isn't versatile enough for use as a regular lens on a full-frame camera. It's designed specifically for macro work. On an APS-C camera, though, it can double as a short telephoto lens without any issues. One downside is the aperture ring lacks click stops, which I found inconvenient for still photography, and the weak flare resistance. In conclusion, if you are looking to explore macro photography or only shoot macro occasionally, this lens offers outstanding value and delivers image quality on par with more expensive lenses. However, if you're serious about macro photography and plan to use the lens frequently, it might be worth investing in a higher quality option, though you'll need a budget for at least twice the price. As mentioned earlier, this review is also available in written format on our blog, where you'll find detailed test charts on sharpness and other characteristics. I've also listed a few alternatives at the end of the article for those interested. A link to the blog post is included in the description below. Huge thanks for watching. Any comments are most welcome. If you like this video, give it the thumbs up. And for more content like this, please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Until the next video, Have a fantastic time, everyone.